So yesterday there was an article put out in Politico going after Senator Bernie Sanders. Now that is not surprising. It's another Politico hit piece, right? Now this one was about Bernie Sanders using private jets when he was out there campaigning for Hillary Clinton. There's an obvious smear by ex-Clinton staffers like Zach Pecanis, right? Now in the article, he referred to Sanders as King Bernie. So, that's great. That's real classy, right? Now, in that article, people like Pecanis, as well as other anonymous ex-Clinton aides, said that they were critical of Bernie Sanders for making requests for him and his staff to use private jets. Now, one of the things in the article says, well, he asked for private jets just for the sake of private jets because he's King Bernie and he wants to float in the clouds, right? Well, look. That's actually not true. Big surprise, right? And this is all, by the way, while he was serving as a campaign surrogate for Hillary Clinton. So he was flying all around the country doing events on behalf of Hillary Clinton to make sure that she does not lose to Donald Trump, which unfortunately didn't quite work. Now, the Sanders teams reported, according to Politico, preference for private jets was a point of tension with the Clinton campaign. But the Clinton campaign spent $15.9 million on travel. Bernie Sanders, a total of $324,000 while he was out campaigning for Clinton. And then the 2 years after, while he had been campaigning for various Democrats in races all over the country, including the midterms, where Democrats basically won back the House. Bernie Sanders went out and campaigned for a lot of those. So, now, again, I told you guys it's not true, what they're saying. And Rania Beatrice, who was Sanders' deputy campaign manager during part of the 2016 campaign, told Politico the campaign never requested a private plane for the sake of having a private plane. So why did he use private jets? Well, the reason was he had a schedule that was so filled with campaign stops that taking commercial flights for some of those was impossible. He couldn't get a public flight, a commercial flight on time. So he ended up having to charter some of those flights ahead of time because he knew the impossibility of the schedule. So he campaigned so difficult, or I'm sorry, not so difficult, but it was so difficult for his campaign to actually make these flights on time using commercials that he had to do private ahead of time. I mean, let me give you an example. In the last week of the election, Sanders flew to 17 different events. 17 in 1 week. 9 states. So, look, that's a lot of campaigning and not a lot of time, right? So there was no way they could have handled that. Now, following that article, which enraged a lot of progressives, the spokesman for Senator Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign is not the spokesman for the new campaign, but for the old campaign, decided to fire back. Now, this is Michael Briggs, right? He told Politico of Hillary Clinton and her staff, quote, "You can see why she's one of the most disliked politicians in America. She's not nice. Her people are not nice." Sanders busted his tail to fly over the country to talk about why it made sense to elect Hillary Clinton. And the thanks that we get is this kind of petty, stupid sniping a couple years after the fact. It gets better. Briggs also called Clinton and her staff, quote, assholes. Oh, I love it. Quote, "It doesn't make me feel good to feel this way, but they're some of the biggest assholes in American politics." Absolutely. 100% correct. And why do I say that? It's not because I don't like them or didn't like them personally. I've never met these people. But the way that they treat Bernie Sanders and the way that they treat Bernie Sanders supporters who overwhelmingly voted for Hillary Clinton in the election, more so than the Hillary Clinton supporters voted for Obama in the 2008 election, in case you guys remember, these are the Pumas, right? Most Sanders supporters said, yes, we don't want to have Donald Trump. Yes, we're going to support Hillary Clinton, and we're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. But there is a smear going on of Bernie Sanders supporters that they're sexist, misogynistic, overwhelmingly white. That is not true. Yes, I realize that I am sort of like a poster person for the alleged Bernie bro, white male in the, in their mid 30s, etc. But in reality, the Sanders support has always been incredibly diverse. And even though Bernie Sanders sometimes trips up on things like, racial justice, generally, he's incredibly good on those issues. So he gets unfairly smeared. That's why we're saying these guys who are constantly putting out that garbage are assholes. To this day, people like Neera Tanden, Adam Paramenko, Zach Bekanis, right? And even John Podesta, they continue to attack and smear Bernie Sanders and blame him for Donald Trump winning. And that's not true. Oh, he didn't campaign for her hard enough. Really? Well, from this article, by the way, this article directly contradicts that. The fact that he campaigned so much for her and traveled to so many states on such a, in such a short time that he needed those private flights to be able to make it. That just shows that their argument is based on nothing more than just pettiness. Shouldn't they be thankful that he worked so hard? No, they're never going to be. Because Bernie Sanders had the gall to commit the worst crime against Hillary Clinton, contesting her in a primary. And they can't stand him for that. They can't stand that he's running again. So, of course, here come the smears. First Politico, now Washington Post. It's 2016 all over again. They're all against Bernie Sanders. But there is one major difference. Bernie Sanders is now well known. He is a front runner. He's raising millions of dollars from small donors. And he now has a volunteer army 1 million strong. The establishment is still using the 2016 Hillary playbook against Bernie Sanders. But now the difference is Sanders has already survived that. And now he's ready for it. And so are we. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.